I'm told if I stand here, I will look best on the camera video, so they're recording all this. So here is a best shot for me and the camera. So and at my age, anything that can help me look better is, of course, a good thing, right? So I usually it's good practice in security presentations that you start by scaring everybody, right? You start by scaring everybody that's saying that doom is happening. Now, the previous keynote speakers did actually an excellent job. So, Jabu, she talked about how the hackers, what the hackers are doing, how the hackers are actually bringing down digital and physical infrastructure. The previous speaker from Cloudflare talked about how AI is also a doom thing and how AI is also very dangerous. So, I thought, watching all this, maybe I should start with a love story. I see some young people here in the audience. Yeah, I think so. So imagine you meet a partner and you have a potential thinking about a new love relationship, and I'm pointing out at you, Carla. In fact, so what used to be the way to test a relationship, let's say 5 years ago, you had to participate in Temptation Island or Love Island or something just to see how strong your connection was with your partner. These days, the current generation, they seek their relationship advice with ChatGPT, right? So if they meet somebody, they try to see with ChatGPT if actually the partner they met is actually worthwhile dating, right? I told this story to BT last week, and the guy told me that in the UK, ChatGPT is forbidden to give relationship advice by law, right? So I haven't tested myself in Belgium whether this is still true. Now I'm married for 20 years, so I think the warranty is already over, so I cannot complain anymore. Now, that being said, all the stuff that Balu talked about on the keynote, it's actually what we are seeing in the network, right? So all the hackers, we actually see them in our telecommunication networks. And it's really something that took off big time over the last year and a half, right? So the first thing, Balu was from the Netherlands, so she talked about the Netherlands. We saw governments giving warnings about DDoS attacks, right? This is a snippet from the Dutch government, but basically you could get your snippets from anywhere. All governments were seeing political action and DDoS attacks. Now, Sol Typhoon was mentioned before. The scary thing for service providers was that they infected or they intruded in our lawful intercept systems from some non-Nokia routers, I can say, just to be sure for those customers who did buy Nokia routers, you're all safe. So, but there were some other routers who were sort of invaded by the Sol Typhoon intrusion, and they were there in the network also for more than a year. So for more than a year, they were able to listen in on all conversations. Now, AI, as was explained in the previous keynotes, is these days being used to much easier find those DDoS attacks or find those. So if you just say, if you have a camera that you want to hack, you just have to type in the camera type and AI will give you the brand, it will give you the coding, it will give you the vulnerability. So you don't need highly trained, nerdy, scientific software engineers. Basically, anybody who can type in natural language can become a DDoS hacker, right? So it's, as we heard, a very good business to be in. Now, what we saw, let's say 6 months ago, is our Nokia emergency response team. It's a number of nerdy security / hacker type of guys who are looking to see what's happening in the network, right? So 6 months ago, a little bit more already, they detected what they have been branded the 1111 botnet. All these security guys, if you're the first to detect a botnet, you can give it a name, right? And usually it tends to be very cool names. That's what they're into. Now, this botnet was actually an infection of a whole bunch of webcams. Webcams which were apparently very popular in Brazil and US. All the petrol stations and all kind of stores in the US were using those cameras. And they were doing, obviously, filming of the recording of the location, but most of their time they spent doing DDoS attacks, right? And the fun thing with this, well, the thing with this one was that this DDoS attack was actually from it didn't exist on Monday, and it was full speed ahead on Tuesday. So the time it takes for these DDoS attacks these days to get from nowhere, from unknown to full force is basically very, very short. It's from one day to another, the attack is there. Now, our solution, I'll talk about how exactly it works. So it's not a promo talk for the solution, but I will explain how it works because it's important to understand how to stop DDoS attacks these days. We were able to see the attack and stop the attack, right? Now, not all of our, well, not the whole industry is using our solutions to mitigate DDoS. And one of the persons who was not using our DDoS mitigation solution was Elon Musk. So this attack actually hit Twitter, now called X, and Elon was blaming Ukraine, he was blaming Russia, he was blaming the whole world basically. But this attack was done by a 22-year-old unemployed man from Oregon, right? So he was just sitting there having a multi-billion business basically on his own, sharing his capabilities, and people could actually rent his talent to attack websites like the ones from Elon Musk. Now, that was 6 months ago. Last month ago, we detected a phenomenon which we call ResHydra, which is our sort of our fancy name for a botnet attack, which is composed from many different components. So usually when people attack something, they don't only do volume-based attacks, they also combine it with other types of attacks. So usually the volume of packets is to keep the IT department busy, right? So they keep the IT department busy while they're doing something more sneaky to really get into the company or into the target they want to hack basically. Now, what was special about this bot was again the size. So it was really a potential of 100 million sources. So 100 million sources. That's a lot. Right? So the actual attack sources that they were doing was about 100,000. So the previous one, like just 6 months ago, was 40,000 sources. This was 100,000 sources. So 100,000 sources sending traffic, right? Now, but what's also special here, and that's what Baloo also talked about, is that this was done by people installing applications. So people were encouraged to install applications on their website, on their laptop, to actually earn some money. Bitcoins is a very good invention for everything illegal, right? So they were making money by just allowing others to use their laptops or computers to do these DDoS attacks. Also, a lot of attacks were from those fire sticks that you can buy in the shop, which were made in China, and they came with pre-installed malware. So people have been buying thousands and thousands and thousands of these fire sticks, which you plug in your TV and you can play all kinds of legal and illegal movies, all pre-installed with malware. So Google is actually suing the guys who are doing this, so that's something which is ongoing. Now, why am I talking about these ways of attacking is because the current ways to detect DDoS attacks is always looking for synthetic traffic, looking for traffic which is abnormal. And that's a bit what Baloo was also saying, is that this traffic, this type of attack, is basically normal traffic. You cannot distinguish that type of attack traffic from normal traffic. So it's very hard for a DDoS device to look at malfunctions in packets. That's not there, right? So it's really normal traffic that you and me do on a daily basis, right? So this was, as again, after 6 months, 10 to 100 times bigger than the previous one. So we were at 3 tera. Now then this month, we had attacks which were up to 33 tera. So when I was building the slides, 33 tera was like the new record. So there are some companies who keep announcing what's the biggest DDoS attack, which is part of the reason why people do this type of DDoS attacks, is because those security companies announcing we found a new record, like we do here, it's good publicity for the hacker, in fact. So that's how he gets his customers also. So anyway, so we saw these attacks of 33 tera. So 33 tera, imagine a country like Belgium, we don't do 33 tera of internet traffic, right? So 33 tera of traffic, this is a capacity to bring down a country, right? So very few countries have that type of size of internet traffic. 33 tera. Remember that date because when I made the slide and on my way here, they told me, no, it's 44 tera. So the current record, you have to scratch this if you get the slides, we are at 44 tera. So I cannot say from where or who or what, it's still a secret, non-public thing. So this attack was to the Valve, so guys into gaming, you know, the gaming guy and Valve and PlayStation. That was that attack. So what you're seeing here is two peaks because they also change the DDoS traffic. So they change the DDoS traffic while they're doing. So from large packets to small packets, all these things, they are testing really how to avoid detection. So again, like on the previous one, we found it on day 0 and we mitigate it at day 0. Right? Now, what's special about this also is that, so this one was longer, this was a couple of hours, but we see many of them are less than 5 minutes. So you might wonder, why are people doing a DDoS attack for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, right? So what we believe is happening is that somebody is trying to show the power. So somebody is trying to show to the world, this is what we can do, right? So it's marketing for the hackers, but it's also a show of power. And I'm not sure, so you might wonder what is next. And I'm thinking what's next is this. So I don't know if anybody has watched this documentary from Die Hard 4. It's a movie with Bruce Willis. You haven't seen it, Carla? You've seen it? So if you remember how it went, it's like 20 years, it's almost 20 years ago. And this is the movie where he takes his car and he jumps into a helicopter to kill the bad guys who are in the helicopter, right? So at those days, when I was 20 years younger, I thought, yeah, that's a very plausible thing to do. But at the other part was that the attack or the point of the movie was that somebody was hacking the US and somebody was bringing down the electricity, the water, the nuclear power plants, everything. So they would bring down the whole country. In hacker terms, apparently this is called a fire sale, whatever. So at that moment, I thought like, oh, bringing down the whole country, that's a crazy idea. That's just a movie thing, right? But what we're seeing with the current DDoS attacks, this seems to be now a reality, right? So now 20 years later, I do believe that DDoS hackers can actually bring down the whole country. I no longer believe that with a car you can actually hit a helicopter, so something has changed as you get older, of course. Now, how do we fix it? So everybody is scared, everybody is worried. Well, so how do we fix it? So let's say most of the DDoS mitigations that we have today are usually based on looking at abnormal traffic. So they try to get an idea of what is normal traffic, and when something is beyond normal, they say something must be wrong, or something is potentially wrong. And then they say, okay, if it's potentially wrong, let's send it to somewhere, to a scrubbing center, and let's see if the scrubbing center can figure out what's really wrong, right? And if it turns out to be false alarm, all the traffic goes back to the network. If it turns out to be a real hack, the scrubbing center will actually stop that traffic. Now, again, think about the sizes of the traffic, of the DDoS attacks. So we are talking here about DDoS attacks of 44 tera. So 44 tera, I mean, you don't want to send all that type of traffic to any data center, right? To any scrubbing center, sending 44 tera of traffic to a scrubbing center will probably also denial of service your scrubbing center, right? So at Nokia, we looked at it in a different way. And I always try to make the analogy with how the way that Google is actually searching the web. So if you know how Google is searching the web, what they do on a continuously basis, they're checking all the websites in the world. So they're scrolling the web pages and trying to put everything they know from those web pages into a big database, right? So when you search for something, they don't have to search the internet, they search their database, right? So they can quickly find the web pages that you're interested in. So the guys who are founded this company, this solution, they said, let's do the same. Let's try to make a sort of a telephone book of the internet. Let's try to figure out who is who on the internet and which IP address is doing basically what service. So they know which IP address is linked to a Netflix cache. So they know which IP address is linked to whatever type of router. They know if the IP address is linked to a CPE device, which was used in an attack in Korea previously, right? So, and that's what they're building. So they're building a big database tagging IP addresses, right? So they're tagging it with, is this something that's easy to intrude? Is this something that was used in a DDoS attack last week? Is it some, so there's multiple tags. So if you look at the database, you will see the IP address, and you will see all kind of tags next to the IP address. So when the service provider is sending us an IP address from his network, we know if that's a suspicious traffic or not, right? So it's not based on any fluctuation of the traffic. So it's based of us identifying the traffic, having our AI algorithms looking at that IP address and see, okay, we are here in Portugal, we get an IP address from some parking meter in Korea, probably something is wrong, right? So it's this type of algorithms which are running on that traffic of your network. And if you detect a if you detect a DDoS attack, then we do not redirect traffic, right? So after we have scanned the internet, put it in our database, we detect the attack, we will send filters to the IP routers. So we actually will send mitigation filters to the IP router to say, IP router, stop this traffic. Now you can only do this if you have a router which is actually capable of actually doing all those filters, right? So you need a powerful enough router to be able to have multiple hundred thousands of filters, because these packets come in at a very high speed, as you can imagine, and the router has to check all those filters to see if the packet, if the traffic is okay or not okay to continue, right? But by doing this, you no longer have to build a huge scrubbing center. Basically, your network, if your network grows, also your scrubbing capability grows, right? So it's automatically the scrubbing capacity grows at the speed of your network. Now, we can do this in two ways. We can do this either inline meaning on the router itself. So that also means that we can block. Remember, I talked to you in the beginning about people who are using their laptops, their computers to generate traffic. So it's not so that all DDoS traffic is coming from the bad states, right? Or what we call sort of the Russians and the China. We heard that talk this morning. What these guys are doing, they are infecting, let's say, your customers here. So people in Portugal, you may be infected, right? So your laptops may be infected. So the attack is not coming always from a peering point, but coming from inside your network. So you need to be able to stop the traffic by preference on the first router that they're hitting, in fact. So that's something we can do. We have also seen that a lot of the DDoS traffic is coming from the US. So US operators have a lot of, well, in the US, they have a lot of IoT hardware, right? A lot of people have lawnmowers, coffee machine, refrigerators, and whatever. But they're also very well connected. So they have a very high connectivity speed to the network. So a lot of DDoS traffic is not targeting the US operators, but they're using the US operators network to target other companies, other targets, basically. So also there, an amount of traffic you cannot ignore. If you can stop that traffic, this is traffic that you save on your network. What we have also done, because I said it's important to stop the traffic and to stop the traffic automatically, we have also introduced or continue to use our AI to actually make life easier for people using our tools. So if you want to know what has happened to your network, what type of DDoS traffic that we have stopped, we now have a way to, you can basically just ask the system. It used to be before you had to read the manual to figure out what type of reports to generate. Now you can just ask the system and he will tell you exactly what he did, what type of attacks you're having, and what you should be scared of, and what they fixed and whatever, right? So it's all a simple natural language interface. Basically meaning that now, with all these attacks, we can use the network itself, and I think that's the key message here. So we use the network itself to stop the DDoS attack. There is no point at redirecting to anywhere because the volumes of the DDoS attacks are getting too big to redirect anyway. So we stop it on the network itself. There is more to security than this, because Balu talked about our passwords and all that type of stuff. Obviously, so it's not just because you have this that you don't need to care about your password anymore. Like SolarWinds 1234 is not a great idea as a password. So you also need to make sure that your network encryption is quantum safe. We heard a lot about AI. I started talking about AI. A lot of these cloud providers uh, tell me they can only sell cloud if people are confident, right? If you're not confident that what you're putting into the cloud is secure, you're not going to put it in the cloud. You're going to keep it at your own premises or whatever. So that's why a lot of these cloud providers or anybody doing anything in the cloud is these days also looking at quantum safe connectivity. The fiber sensing, well, everybody here in Europe will have read the news about all kinds of ships floating around in the sea and then by accident breaking a cable. We have a solution where we can actually see if somebody is getting closer to those cables, right? So we can even detect, and that's a story they told me. I'm not sure if it's a true story because sometimes they tell me things which are not true. But they told me they can actually detect if a whale gets close to the fiber. So they can detect if whales get closer. They say, "Woo, a whale's getting closer," and then you can either send somebody there or make some noise. I don't know. I don't know how to fix the whale problem, in fact. But anyway, if it's a ship, they will definitely know, right? So and that's it. So keep these things in mind when you're building a network. And as a key message, let's say, try to stop the DDoS attack in your network, in the network itself. If you want to learn more, I have some demos at the booth, so we can chat more about the technical details of how all of this works. Okay. Now you were almost ready to take a picture, but you will have to pay me for the slides, and then you will get it. In fact, okay. Good. Thank you. That's it.